Okay, we're talking about methylation, activation, all the fancy schmancy kinds of chemistry reactions that happen in the body to keep us healthy. Specifically, we're talking about something called DMAE, dimethylaminoethanol. It's one of those chemicals that sticks a little methyl on to other chemicals. It's a methylating agent. It improves brain health. It's found naturally in our brains, completely non-toxic, completely gentle stuff. It can be helpful for patients who have Alzheimer's disease or other dementias, movement disorders, or you can use it just to improve focus and mental clarity. Most brain supplements are going to include a little DMAE, dimethylaminoethanol. One of the most interesting applications of DMAE involves something called Lipofuscin. Most people haven't heard of Lipofuscin, but most people should hear of Lipofuscin because it is responsible for a lot of the signs of aging. It's one of the most misunderstood aspects in all of skin health, and it's responsible for a type of hyperpigmentation or dark spots. Not exactly hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation is the kind of blotchiness that occurs on our skin in response to the sun or in response to aging, in response to hormones like estrogen, or in response to stress hormones. Lipofuscin is a little bit different from ordinary hyperpigmentation dark spots. Lipofuscin is a little bit lighter than dark spots, and lipofuscin will appear deeper in the skin. And typically it'll appear on the face or on the hands. In fact, it's a rare man or woman after the age of 55 or 60 or so that doesn't have to deal with these kinds of dark spots. They look geographical. That's the best way I can describe them. They almost look like a country on a map. They're sort of, they have an odd shape and odd boundary. They kind of go in and they go out. My brother used to call them the map of France on my grandmother. She used to have all this lipofuscin on her arms. So the take-home message here, the point I'm trying to make is that lipofuscin and melanin are not the same thing. Lipofuscin is lighter brown, it's deeper, it appears in the kind of geographical shapes. Melanin, or pigmentation, or hyperpigmentation, typically occurs in response to the sun, or in response to drugs, or in response to hormones, or in response to stress. It's not so much related to aging. Excuse me. Lipofuscin has a kind of gummy quality that makes it stick. And that's why you have to have a healthy lymphatic system in order to drain this lipofuscin out. As we get older, our lymphatics, that's our poison waste sewage system, kind of clogs up. Lymphatic congestion, lymphatic clogging can lead to an accumulation of this discoloration, this lipofuscin discoloration. Cells are constantly producing waste. This lipofuscin material is basically a cell waste. Cells are constantly producing this waste. Cells are constantly dying. And the body has to have an effective way for disposing of this waste material. As we get older and the lymphatic system starts to clog up, as our bodies degenerate, as cells start to break down, this waste removal system, along with everything else, begins to break down. And this is what shows up as an accumulation of this stuff I'm calling lipofuscin. And that's spelled, by the way, Lipofuscin. Lipofuscin shows up, as I say, discolorations in the face, hands, or anywhere else in the body. In fact, lipofuscin is not just an external problem. It's not just something that shows up cosmetically on the face or on the hands. Lipofuscin is really problematic because it shows up inside the body as well as on the outside of the body. And lipofuscin has a very important connection to many of the diseases of aging, including age-related macular degeneration, Parkinson's disease, dementias, brain health issues, confusion, nerve issues, diseases of the central nervous system. Many of the signs of aging are associated with accumulation of this kind of dark brownish pigment inside the body as well as outside the body. And if you have these spots on your hands or in your arms or on your face, rest assured, you're probably accumulating this aging pigment inside the body as well. So what's the deal? What happens exactly to cause this accumulation of lipofuscin? Well, in order to understand this, how this stuff accumulates, how this brown yellowish pigment accumulates, we got to understand something about a cell. We got to understand, well, first of all, we got to understand really what a cell is. We don't really think about this too much unless you're listening to The Bright Side. Hardly anybody ever talks about cells. Certainly your doctor isn't going to talk about cells because doctoring can't really do anything to address the health of a cell. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on inside a cell. A cell is a ridiculously complex system, but one of the most important things about a cell is its garbage disposal system. Just like the body has a waste disposal system called the lymph, every little individual cell has a little waste incinerator, a garbage incinerator. This is one of the coolest aspects in all of cell biology. There's literally a waste burning system built into every one of our cells in exactly the same fashion that as you have an incinerator in an apartment building or in a business or campsites, or sometimes municipalities will burn their garbage to efficiently get rid of it and keep it from rotting and decaying and accumulating bugs and wild animals and bacteria and smells. Each one of the 100 trillion cells in our body has its own built-in garbage incinerator system. This is so cool and underscores how absolutely amazing and efficient and complicated and intricate a simple little cell, 1/100th the size of a head of a pin, really is. Hang tight. I'll finish this up when we come back from our break. Got a couple lines open for you at 855-660-4261. Get on board early. It was first come, first serve. Love to get us as many calls as possible, so give us a call early. 855-660-4261 is our number. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll be... Okay, so I'm pumped up. I'm excited about the nature of a cell. Whenever I think about the cell, and I do study cell biology and cell chemistry all the time, pretty much every day I'm learning something new about the cell. The cell is just like a little municipality, and just like little municipalities, just like a city or a municipality has a waste disposal system, the cell has a waste disposal system too. And this is so cool when you think about it, because a cell is 1/100th the size of a head of a pin. That's how tiny a cell is. And we always say all disease is cell disease. All disease represents some kind of breakdown in the functioning of a cell. When we talk about a cell, it's important to recognize that even though this little tiny structure is 1/100th the size of a head of a pin, it can actually be subdivided into even tinier components, even tinier sections within a cell. There are little tiny subsections within this ridiculously small entity called a cell. There's little tiny, even tinier sections, all with their own little membranes, all enclosed with their own little boundaries, all located in specific areas inside a cell. This is mind-blowing when you think about it. You've got various sections inside a cell that produce energy. You've got other sections that store information. You've got other sections that provide structure. You've got little sections that are mini manufacturing areas. You've got little sections that are storage areas. And this, my friends, is all in the area that's 1/100th the size of a head of a pin. These little substructures oftentimes are too small to even be seen with a microscope. You've got to use an electron microscope in order to see these little substructures. And this is in every little cell, of which we have 100 trillion. And the take-home message here, guys, is that this thing is very, very, very fragile. Yes, it's miraculous, and it's complex, and it's intricate, and it can do all kinds of different things. But in order to do its work, everything has to be just right. Now, fortunately, there's a lot of redundancy in the sense that there's many, 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 many trillions of cells. You have lots of different cells, so it doesn't matter if one cell breaks down or two cells break down or three cells break down. But once cell breakdown accumulates, that's when disease starts. All disease is cell disease means somewhere in the body, cells are not getting the energy they need to do their work. This very, very complicated system requires energy. It requires oxygen, it requires nutrients, and it requires prescription drugs. No, of course it doesn't require prescription drugs. That's doctor medical model stupidity. It requires nutrients and it requires oxygen. And only a boneheaded medical professional will think that you can get better by using a prescription drug. These cells that are so intricately nanostructured, nano-architected, that means designed at the nanoscopic level, 1 billion times smaller than a meter. A meter's maybe roughly a yard or so. Divide a yardstick up by 1 billion times, and that's the kind of size we're talking about. This little tiny structure called a cell has all kinds of little substructures in it. A substructure that contains information, a substructure that provides a skeletal system, a substructure that provides a manufacturing area. There's little ferries inside the cell that shuttle things back and forth. And there's little garbage incinerators that burn waste. Those little garbage incinerators play a major, major role in keeping the cell healthy. And by the way, this whole thing, this tiny little structure we call a cell, is coded with an information processor that can be likened to a computer chip. This information processor that coats this ridiculously tiny entity called a cell is on the order of 10,000 times thinner than a piece of paper. take a little notebook paper, take a piece of notebook paper and look at it and then divide it up its width 10,000 times, if you can even remotely get there. And that's the size of the coating of a cell, this information processor, the brain of a cell that interprets the environment and sends the information into the various compartments. This is where the work of a cell begins. This is where the work of a cell is initiated via information that's passed into the cell through this brain on the surface, this brain that coats the surface, the so-called cell membrane. Understanding and appreciating and honoring the tiny little cell is critically important if we are going to understand how to take care of our bodies. What's more, this miraculous nature of a cell's complexity highlights the intelligence that I call divine. I call it divine intelligence because there's no other way it can be explained. The nature of a cell, the intelligence of a cell, highlights the divine intelligence that forms the background, the context, the too often forgotten context of every moment of our lives. It's almost as if every single one of these little cells was a tiny little city with its own little consciousness that in some miraculous fashion cooperates with trillions and trillions of other cities in a peaceful and orderly fashion that we human beings, we humanity, we the human race could perhaps learn a lot from. The divine intelligence of the cell. Now here's the take-home message. This is the bottom line. Yes, it's very cool. It's amazingly cool, and I hope you guys are getting a sense of how unbelievably awesome the nature of cell biology and the nature of a cell is. But here's the take-home message. In order for all of this activity to take place, and in order for this internal structure to remain intact, the cell must have energy. When we say all disease is cell disease, what we're talking about is some kind of lack of energy within this tiny little cell, and this is incredibly important to understand because until we get this idea, we're still going to be bamboozled by the medical model that says we can be surgically operated on to get healthy. We can be cut up like a Christmas turkey to restore our health. When we understand this unbelievable nature of a cell, when we understand that cell disease means a lack of energy in the cell, we'll see why this medical model that we're immersed in is utterly and completely useless, and we can see why our doctors, as nice as they may be and as kindly as they may be, for all their self-congratulating, your doctor is utterly helpless to reverse degenerative disease because at the end of the day, a surgical procedure, a drug or device cannot give a cell energy. Nothing a doctor can do can give our cells energy, but as we've said so many times on this program, we don't need a doctor. We can do it ourselves through the mighty 90 essential nutrients, eating correctly, breathing correctly, and eliminating the stream of toxicity that enters into the body. Okay, so we started off talking about DMAE. By the way, you can get DMAE in the Ageless product from Longevity. DMAE is a wonderful nutritional supplement for brain health, for focusing, for ADD, attention deficit disorder, and it's also very important for helping drain the body of aging pigment, Lipofuscin. Lipofuscin is typically burnt in cellular incinerators, and these cellular waste disposal systems are super, super cool, and I'm going to hang tight and tell you about that on our next Bright Side episode. We'll talk about cellular incineration, how cells burn their waste, just like a garbage incinerator, just like a municipality will burn waste in a garbage incinerator. Cells have their own little garbage incinerators, and these garbage incinerators have a huge, huge role to play when it comes to health, when it comes to autoimmune disease, and when it comes to the aging pigment, Lipofuscin. We'll talk about that on our next Bright Side episode. Thanks so much for listening in today. Time to hit our phones at 855-660-4261. Let's go off to John in Michigan. What's going on, John? How you doing?
Great, Ben. Did you say DME? What is the
DMAE, David Michael Apple Edward, Dimethylaminoethanol.
Okay. I have a friend with lymph node issues. He was in Nam, and he's going for treatment on tomorrow, chemo. He's at stage 3, and they have him on allopurinol right now.
It's lymph node cancer. Is it officially lymph node cancer?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, well, here's the deal. The lymph as your body's sewage system, and there's little concentrations of lymph called nodes that are scattered throughout the body, where the doctor feels, sometimes he'll feel along your neck, right under your jaw area, in your neck area. He'll feel for swelling. If you have a cold, he's feeling for a swollen lymph node. These nodes, these concentrations of lymph accumulate toxicity. Now, if he's been in Vietnam, he's probably was exposed, I'm assuming he was exposed to Agent Orange or some other chemical.
Right, he could see the stuff hanging from the trees.
See, the problem, once you've been exposed to those kinds of toxins, these toxins tend to be fat soluble, and they'll store in the fatty part of the body, and then they can become released over time gradually. It's very difficult to control toxicity once it's entered into your body and it's immersed itself into the fat system. So you got to really focus on detoxification strategies, and in addition to making sure you don't have any more toxins coming into the body through the digestive system. So a couple things you might want to do. If it's already said stage 3 cancer, he's already progressed somewhat. If it was me, I'd be doing, and this is true for anybody out there dealing with progressed cancer, I would be doing intravenous nutrition, especially intravenous glutathione, intravenous vitamin C, intravenous Myers cocktail. The Myers cocktail is B vitamins and magnesium. I think there's some vitamin C in there as well. I wouldn't be messing around with just regular supplements. If you don't want to go the IV route, and it is expensive to do IV nutrition, then you want to do the same kinds of strategies orally, using the Mighty 90, making sure you're patching up the digestive system. I'm sorry. The Z-radical is also very wonderfully anti-cancer for a lot of reasons. Number one, it patches up the digestive system. Number two, the fucoidan has some tremendous immune boosting properties as well as cancer suppression properties. There's a lot of literature on fucoidan in cancer. It can improve the circulatory system. That's one of those must-have nutrients for anybody who's dealing with cancer or wants to prevent or protect themselves from getting cancer. That's the Z-radical. In addition to the Mighty 90, as I said, digestive enzymes sometimes can help. There's a guy named Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez who's written a lot about using pancreatic enzymes for dealing with cancer, so that's something else that you might want to think about. And then, of course, in addition to the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, which will get you 1,000 milligrams or so of vitamin C per 2 scoops, it's probably a good idea to do mega doses of vitamin C. I would be using anywhere from 5 to 10 grams a day, and of course, as we said so many times in this program, you can use a lot more than 10 grams of vitamin C a day. We had a guy on a couple years ago, Dr. Thomas Levy, who's written a lot about vitamin C, and he talked about using 50,000 grams of vitamin C stuck right into the blood. That's how non-toxic and gentle vitamin C is. So that's something else to think about. And one last thing let me tell you is vitamin E also has some nice anti-cancer benefits, and I'll be talking about vitamin E on our next Bright Side episode about how it helps with lipofuscin as well. 400 international units of vitamin E. Zinc and selenium are also two very important immune-boosting minerals. Zinc is really important for the thymus and for supporting the immune system, and then selenium has anti-cancer benefits. 50 milligrams a day of zinc picolinate, and then selenium, maybe 400 to 600 micrograms of selenium OPC, ultimate selenium from Longevity. And then last but not least, my friend Ty Bollinger from Texas, who hopefully I'll have on the air here sometime soon, he talks a lot about using a product called Carnivora for cancer, and I can't say yay or nay on that, but I'm just putting that out there for you. Ty believes in it, so that's something that you might want to think about too. Anything else, John?
Yes, Ben. He lives about 20 miles from Dr. Brownstein.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to get him over there. I believe Doctor does intravenous supplementation.
He probably does. I would be surprised if Dr. Brownstein didn't do intravenous nutrition. So that might be something that he might want to consider. Where does he live? Where does your friend live?
He lives in the Detroit area.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely, if Dr. Brownstein's doing IV nutrition, and I say it's a good bet that he does do that, that would be something I would do. Personally, that's the first thing I would do if I had, God forbid, if I got cancer, that would be the first thing I would do. And also hyperbaric oxygen, high pressure oxygen might be something to think about too. You might also want to have your friend Google the Gerson therapy. Dr. Max Gerson has written a lot about using vegetables and vegetable juices to treat cancer, and you have to go down to Mexico for that, but that's something else to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Have a good day, buddy. Okay, Linda in Tennessee, welcome to the Bright Side. Good morning. What's going on?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling.
Good.
How can we help you?
I've got a friend who's just recently been diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disease.
Okay. I love
and
that
they're
term.
kind of leaning toward the lupus because she has two sisters that both had lupus.
That's just names. Those are just diagnoses. Those are just terms. Doesn't matter. Basically, her body's falling apart. That's what you got to know. As we've said so many times in the program, we probably talked 2 months straight about connective tissue. Connective tissue forms the beef of the body, the bulk of the body. So mixed connective tissue disease is when the bulk of the body, the meat, the beef of the body starts to break down. It usually happens because of a jacked up immune system. That's what lupus is. And that's all lupus is a jacked up immune system where the immune system, instead of attacking the enemy, instead of looking outward to attack microbes and invaders into the body, it turns its very vast arsenal, its large amount of resources, its firepower, if you will, it turns it on the connective tissue itself. And there's a couple reasons for that, and it's real easy to deal with. So hang tight, Linda. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. Going to take a time out, and we'll be back with more of your phone calls. 855-660-4261 is our number on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Don't go away. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on the bright side talking to Linda in Tennessee about mixed connective tissue disease. Mixed connective tissue disease is mostly lupus, sometimes scleroderma they'll call it. Sometimes they call it polymyositis, whatever the heck they're calling it. It's basically the body decaying, the body breaking down, and most of the time that involves the immune system. The immune system fires off its vast chemical firepower at the body instead of at the enemy. Whenever you have, and that's called autoimmunity, of course, most of you know that. Whenever you have autoimmunity, you want to think, number one, first and foremost, why is the immune system being activated inappropriately? And that almost always will involve some kind of digestive toxicity, some kind of food toxin that's getting into the body chronically over and over and over again. So first thing, always, no matter what your health issue is, you guys, no matter what it is, and the worse it is, the more important it is to do this. Focus on digestive health. The stream of poison that's coming into the body, number one, and number two, patching up the digestive system. So Linda, for your friend, have her, she's got to know she's got some kind of digestive issues. Constipation is usually involved, gas, bloating, whatever, heartburn, loose stools, whatever it is. Have her focus on foods that are initiating those digestive symptoms and eliminate those foods. If she fasts for a couple of days, she's going to feel better. That's it. Just not eating. Obviously, she has to eat eventually. But if she lays off food for a day or two, she's going to feel better. Then secondly, have her eat foods that are soothing to the digestive system and building to the digestive system. Bone soup is number one on the list for soothing foods and for building foods, digestive soothing foods and digestive system building foods. Make sure the bone soup, the bones, the chicken or the fish or the turkey or whatever bones you're using come from an animal that was not fed poison, not fed antibiotics, not fed hormones, because you're going to basically get a poison hormone cocktail instead of bone soup if you use a bird from Safeway or King Soopers or, whatever supermarket you have in your area. So go to Whole Foods, go to a health food store, find an organic chicken or turkey or whatever kind of animal you want and turn it into soup and have her subsist on that as much as possible. The cartilage, especially if there's a lot of cartilage, you want to make sure that you're using a bird that's got a lot of cartilage because the medicine, the immune boosting medicine is in the cartilage. Now, cartilage and collagen in general is amazing for autoimmune issues to reduce the symptoms of autoimmunity. There's a lot of literature, by the way, on rheumatoid arthritis, which is used as a standard autoimmune disease. Whenever they want to test how things work on autoimmunity, they'll use rheumatoid arthritis as an example, and there's tons of literature on the use of cartilage-containing products to help with rheumatoid arthritis, but you get the same benefits for all autoimmunity. Mixed connective tissue disease is rheumatoid arthritis of the connective tissue. So bone soup, the Z radical can also help for coating the digestive system. Glutamine powder can be helpful. Aloe and noni can also be helpful. Longevity's got a couple aloe and noni products. And then as far as rebuilding connective tissue, you want to use amino acids that are involved in connective tissue building. Proline, lysine, glycine. These are amino acids that are found in animal products primarily. So making sure she's getting seafood, perhaps. Bone soup will get you some of that. If you use a whole chicken anyway, we'll get you some of that protein too. Vitamin C is a key player in the building of connective tissue as well as in supporting the immune system. I'd be using 2,000 or 3,000 milligrams minimum of vitamin C a day, but she can go up to, as I was saying earlier, she can go up to 10,000 milligrams or so if she wants. Huge amounts of vitamin C. You can take huge amounts of vitamin C into the body. Zinc is important for the immune system, 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate a day. Vitamin E, again, very important for the immune system, 400 international units a day. And then the ultimate selenium is probably a good idea, around 600 micrograms a day of the ultimate selenium from Longevity. And then, of course, the Healthy Start Pack goes without saying. She should be on that just to get her basic nutrients, sipping on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and then making sure she's using her ultimate EFAs. One last strategy, in addition to fasting, just reducing her caloric intake, especially calories that are derived from refined and processed food. Restaurant foods, if I had mixed connective tissue disease, I wouldn't be stepping foot in a restaurant unless I knew the owner of the restaurant and I knew they loved me and they were preparing food with kindness and love and an open heart. And how often does that happen? So staying away from restaurant foods, processed foods, foods that are made by people who don't give a rat's you-know-what about you or me. All right?
Well, I know she just started taking the lecithin.
That'll help, too.
And apple cider vinegar.
All that. She's on the right track. Is she feeling better? Does she notice anything?
A little bit. It started to, of course, this just been within the last couple of weeks, I guess. So
okay, she's on the right track.
How much is the lecithin?
You can have as much as you want. I use 1 to 2 tablespoons a day is what I do, and I don't really have any health issues. She could double that if she wants. Make sure it's organic or GMO free. If she wants to stay, soy is where most lecithin is soy lecithin. If she wants to stay away from soy, she can use a rice lecithin or a sunflower lecithin.
Okay, let me ask you one other quick question. She also has a degenerative disc and joint problem.
Same deal. Same deal.
Now, the biggest thing is that she had, the majority of it is like the L5S1.
Don't forget L5S1. No, forget L5S1. Forget the nerves. Forget all that stuff. Her body is rotting on the vine. Do you ever see a piece of fruit when it starts to rot on the vine? That's what's happening to her body. It's going to happen in her joints. It's going to happen in her connective tissue, her cartilage, her nerves. Don't worry about where. Worry that it's decaying. And that's all you got to do to reverse it. If you want to, you like the story and the drama of it, not you, but if she does or the doctor does, that's great. You can say it's L5, it's T4, it's the joints, it's rheumatoid, it's degenerative. You can go through, you can write a whole novel on it if you like. But for healing, you don't need to know any of that stuff. For healing, you got to just stop the steady stream of toxicity that's getting into the body and then restore the nutritional balance. And, of course, deep breathing is also important. And then it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, spiritual, mental, and emotional levels are also important to address for all health issues. Find God, whatever that means for you. Work mentally, correct thoughts. Crappy thoughts mean crappy body. Correct thoughts mean a healthy body. Work with love and joy and focus away from jealousy and anger and rage and all the negative emotions that can spike cortisol and suppress the immune system and wreak havoc on the immune system, really. So those levels are very important, but from a nutritional standpoint, deep breathing techniques, nutritional, making sure you're getting your nutritional supplements, your Mighty 90 nutrients, and stopping the steady stream of toxicity that enters into the body. Thanks for calling.
Will that help with like the exhaustion and the swelling?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. All of it. It'll help with all of it. She should notice results within a couple days, actually. All right, got to move on. Thanks so much for your call, Linda. God bless. Have a beautiful day. Let's see if we can get a couple more calls in. Joseph in Texas, what's up? Welcome to the bright side.
Yes, mother ended up in the hospital with low sodium, high blood pressure. I had told the doctor that she's been on vitamins and the BTT. He said for her to get off of that stuff.
Because it'll kill her. Get some nice prescription drugs. That BTT will kill her, but we're going to give her some prednisone. That's going to save her life. Yes, that's our brain-dead medical model. I'm almost tired of ripping on doctors. It's just too easy to do. So what are you going to do? I mean, she's under the care of a doctor, so the doctor's the boss. When you go to the hospital, they rule. They're your daddy. They tell you what to do. You don't tell them what to do, and that's just how it is. The stupidity... I can't even describe how idiotic something is.
He did not like to be questioned about vitamins and minerals.
Where are you?
That, I got called by the Adult Protective Services. The dogs, they sucked the dogs on me yesterday.
For what? Giving her BTT?
Yes, for her not taking her medication.
And giving her
She's a 73-year-old woman who lives on her own, who wants to be by herself, and can outwork any one of those doctors in the yard. She moves around her own furniture, still to this day, and they want to call it that, and it was the doctors. It was the doctors at the hospital.
What can I tell you, my friend? I don't know what to say. I mean, obviously, she needs the BTT. She needs electrolytes. Sodium is a major electrical element. Obviously, if you don't have enough sodium in your body, you're going to have an electrical breakdown, and that's what cardiovascular issues largely are, electrical breakdowns. Is breathing okay? Why don't you ask your doctor if breathing is okay? Because that's very important, but it may counteract some of the medicine. So I don't know if breathing is okay. But if it is, she needs to be doing deep breathing. That'll help with her blood pressure. That'll help open up her blood vessels and reduce her blood pressure a little bit. Is reducing her intake of sugars okay? And insulin spiking foods? You might want to ask the doctor, because that too may interfere with her prednisone, and we don't want to do that. So maybe she should stay on a fast food diet and eat at the McDonald's that's in the hospital. Because,
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, Joseph, you're just going to break my heart and make me sad. I don't know what else I can tell you.
It truly pissed me off myself.
It should. Where in Texas are you, Joseph?
Austin.
Austin. Is this an Austin hospital?
It is.
Oh, my gosh. All right, Joseph.
Say it?
Yes, tell us the name of the hospital. Oh, we lost Joseph. Okay. All right, that's all the time we have for today. We'll continue talking about lipofuscin and cell biology. I hope I'm not getting too sciencey on you guys here, but I want you to feel the amazingness of this ride, this coach that we've got called the human body, this deluxe ride, coach that we ride through our lives with, that's run and constructed and made up of these trillions of little entities called cells. We'll talk about that on our next Bright Side episode. Thanks for listening, folks. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.